Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Mashqura, as Gayatri said. I am the founder and CEO of Eastern Himalayan Foundation. I'm from Darjeeling. Um, at the very beginning, I would like to say I'm really, really grateful that I have this opportunity to share about the region, our work, our challenges, and the problems that we're trying to solve. I have an immense responsibility today. Um, Something that I want to share with you at the offset is I'm representing a region, I'm representing my people, I'm representing our work. So I'm here on behalf of a lot of people and I will make mistakes. And I want to share an apology beforehand for any mistake that I make beforehand, right? Which is why I will focus more on what I know best, which is the work that we do and the experiences that we have had. And we will keep a lot of time at the end for your questions, because although the talk is about the region and the work, the challenges, but we can talk about what your experiences as young people in India's most premier institution is. Where do you all come from? What do you think what do you think we should do as an organization working with the youth? Because we'd like to hear from the youth directly. You can ask me also about what it is to be a woman entrepreneur, right? Or any other questions that may not fall within the domain of our conversation today. So I'll try and see if we can keep more space for question and answers. Let's talk about the region first. How many of you, okay, before we come to this, anybody from the Northeast, could you raise your hands, please? Fantastic. Which states? Arunachal, Manipur, Sikkim. Which state? Sikkim. Somebody was there? Assam. Okay. Okay. And everybody is comfortable with English as a medium of communication? Okay. Anybody from what you would consider a marginal area of India, like the hinterlands of India outside the mainland? From Darjeeling, Kalimpong, where are you from? You're from Himachal, mountain areas. Anybody else? Right? Okay. Yeah, where are you from? I'm from Shiliguri. You're from Shiliguri. So Darjeeling. Okay. Technically, yes. So we will also talk about what being marginalized also means. What it means not to be in the radar of the development dialogue of mainstream media. And all the answers and all the points will not come from me. Okay. So this is our tagline. We aim to develop a region where there are resilient youth building a resilient mountain community, right? And all of these words are important. We'll come back to it. All of you know about Darjeeling, either through, if you are my generation, through Shah Rukh Khan, Rajaban Temple, or if you're the recent generation, through Barfi and Ranveer Singh, Ranveer Kapoor, something. Right? It's known for the misty mountains, tea gardens, tea that is sold to the highest bidder and is apparently also had by the Queen of England. From the beautiful view of the Kanchenjunga, the third largest peak in the world, to steaming momos, and everything that the tourists come for, right? And that is what most people know of Darjeeling. That is what popular culture also presents to the audience. But I'm here to actually burst that bubble a little and tell you what are the challenges within our region also. What lies behind the beauty and the scenery? This holds true not just for Darjeeling and Kalimpong, but also the rest of the Northeast. Right? political instability, and I'll come to Darjeeling specifically what it means to be politically unstable. Lack of opportunities. Among all the people who are here from Darjeeling, Kalimpong, and the Northeast are PhD students, but and MA, MTech. But there will be very few who are doing their masters or even the bachelors in engineering, in the sciences, in STEM. Right? The opportunities are limited to certain sectors. And the opportunities of learning, of exploring what more to do are also very limited, largely in the Northeast. Then, of course, this also leads to the fact that migration is extremely high. And do you know that migration is high from the Northeast? How would you know that migration is high? Where do you see people from the Northeast in Bombay? Apart from the few cases in the campuses. Anybody? Yes. In our restaurants and
service sector.
Service sector.
Service sector.
Mostly in the service sector, right? So opportunities are also limited. What does political instability mean? Darjeeling is also has a history of the longest struggle for statehood. That predates independence. And Baki जितने states are Telangana, Jharkhand, they got their separate states. Darjeeling is still asking for a separate state, which is called Bogaland. And this, because of the demand for separate state, there has been political instability. And a very clear demonstration of that political instability is that there were no panchayat elections held for 20 years. Now, all of you who have some experience of being in a rural area knows what the responsibilities of a Gram Panchayat are. Now, imagine that youngsters your age and younger to you have never experienced a fully functioning Gram Panchayat at all. Which means that the 73rd and 74th amendments have not come to life for this generation. Okay? The tea industry, which supplies tea to the field, also is a symbol of exploitation because we pay the lowest amount that a tea garden worker earns as daily wage in the entire country, which is less than 250. 250 was a recent increase, and most people who work in the tea gardens are actually women. Okay? The entire economy rests on tourism mostly, which is fragile, it is seasonal, right? And most of our young people actually go towards industries like tourism, which are informal, which do not ensure job security or forget career growth. Agriculture is small scale with very little value addition, but we have amazing products like we have avocado and all your superfoods that you get in Bombay supermarkets, but there are no processing industries there yet. This I will come to again and again, is you will not find data on Darjeeling and Kalimpong. When you look for data, you will find data that is perhaps representative of Siliguri, which is the municipal corporation within the Darjeeling district. But the statistics with respect to the hill areas don't find representation anywhere. So if you were to research on water and talk about what are the sources of water, you will get bore wells and tube wells, which are things that you don't find in mountain areas. But when the sample was taken, the sample mostly perhaps fell in the plain areas, and there are no talk of springs, for example. This is just one example. There is very little talk about media coverage about Darjeeling also. Like, for example, 2023, there were the Teesta floods. Like, there was a glacial lake outburst that happened, and because of which villages in Sikkim actually were swept away. But that also affected, the same river actually flows down to Darjeeling and Kalimpong also. But the national news would have covered only Sikkim. It does not cover Darjeeling. This is a figure for all of the Northeast. Right? Unemployment is so high. In fact, some of the states in the northeast, like Nagaland, have the highest rates of unemployment, because of which there is a very high rate of migration. And migration not just to cities like Bombay and Delhi, Bangalore, but also to places like Dubai, and certain industries like now geriatric care, for example, if not the service sector, to work in a McDonald's or a KFC in deplorable conditions, in extremely deplorable conditions. This is where, like you mentioned, we see our young people in the salons, in the restaurants, but very few in campuses like this. Right? And we want to, as an organization, be trying to understand what are the structural barriers for young people from our geography to actually reach places like this. Or any other diversified career, be it medicine, engineering, design, IT. Why not more people from the Northeast? Now, a little bit of a personal story. I am from Darjeeling. This is a photo of a school that my mother started in 1973. And she was the daughter of migrants. My nanny, grandmother, was a migrant from Nepal, and my nana was a migrant from Bihar. And they settled in this place called Railing, which is a Gram Panchayat in one of the remote areas of Darjeeling. And I don't know why, but my mom thought that she should start a school. And she didn't start in an area that is accessible. She went to the topmost village where mostly the Sherpas lived, and she started a school there. She taught there for 3 years till the school was recognized, and it recently also completed 50 years of its establishment. And you would think that I come from slightly privileged backgrounds where, my parents had so much focus on education, so I probably had more exposure, but no. Okay? This is me in my second year or first year, I don't know, in college. And among my classmates, this is St. Joseph's College in Darjeeling. Right? In spite of my parents' focus on education, I had very little idea what to do after graduation. I wanted to do physics honors, but in my plus two, my maths marks were so low that I did not get to any of the colleges in Calcutta. So I had to head back. I wanted to escape Darjeeling. Okay. But I couldn't, I had to come back. But when I came back to Darjeeling and I had to do my graduation, I got the most fantastic teachers. I'll tell you about one such teacher is Ms. Noreen Dunn, who used to not let us enter class. If, for example, you don't have strikes, sometimes maybe you do like a Maharashtra Bandh. But in Darjeeling at that time, we used to have a lot of strikes. And God forbid you entered class not knowing what the strike was for, then you were not allowed to enter class. So you had to tell ma'am why the strike was held. And then she would ask you, whose livelihood did it get affected more? You to have chutti. What about this? What about somebody who wants to sell vegetables? What about the porter who picks up your luggage? Unka kya hua? Or she'll point at the migrants who are building a college and say, where are their students? Where are their children studying? So I had teachers like that who were constantly asking questions to us about larger social realities. So one influence. The other is, before I come to the other, meet my classmates. So I understood that drug abuse and alcoholism is a part and parcel of our daily life in Darjeeling and Calcutta. And I'll tell you how. To give you an example, SEA class hai, and we are in the front two benches. You can imagine that I was a front bencher. And then somewhere at the back will be a friend who's already under influence and losing. Right? Or I walk out of class and outside the women's room, there's a friend of mine who's showing a pair of sneakers and saying, Mashqura, will you buy? Why would you want to buy? Why would you want to sell a new pair of sneakers? Because he wants to get his lessons. I lost one of my closest friends to an overdose. And that's how close we know of alcoholism and drug abuse. So much so that you pick any one of us, we will have one close relative, if not a family member, who is into alcoholism and drug abuse. It is that serious a problem, not only in Darjeeling and Kalimpong, but also the rest of the province. The other thing about us is, I joke about this, I shouldn't, but that falling in love is our national pastime. Right? Like there were friends of mine who had gotten married while in college. Right? So early marriage is something that is culturally accepted. And it should not be a problem as long as you are adults and it's legal, right? But I've understood that it stems from somewhere else. It stems from a need for connection. It stems from a fact that you want to belong. You're looking for a safe space which you don't have in your family and your community. And you're looking for that one person with whom you can call and build a home. You don't have that. And that you will see not just across Darjeeling, Kalimpong, and the Northeast, but in other parts of the country where this is culturally accepted. Young people are just looking to belong. Um, I was lucky because I got a mentor from a local NGO who mentored us. So we had a small group of young people who used to do street plays. And we said that we do street plays on social issues. And this intro actually helped us understand social issues in competition. For example, let's take alcoholism, right? He would make us sit with a chart paper and ask why alcoholism. What would he say? Anybody? Why alcoholism? Why does any area have high rates of alcoholics? Anybody? Right? More working class people. What does that mean? More physically tired and therefore any other reason? Sorry? Escapism because their life is so similar. Life is so tough that you want to, even if you're not a working class, you may have broken your heart and this. Then anybody else? Escape reality. Any other reason? The place is very cold. I would have never thought that, yeah. The place is very cold. What else? Last reason. As a sense of celebration because it's cultural, right? So except for what Gayatri said, everything else, like for example, you have your heart broken, you want to escape reality, which means that you don't have any other mental health tools to cater to the heartbreak, right? Or you're working class and you're so tired, you don't have any other ways by which you can rest because of which you turn to alcoholism. So if I keep asking why and why and why for every cause, you will understand that each issue is actually just a symptom and the roots of that problem are actually rooted in the socio-economic, political, cultural milieu of that place. Right? And this was taught to us when we were in high school because of the exposure that we had with the NGO. Right? Somewhere is the reason.
अपने को क्लिक किया
हाँ जी, figured out. Thank you.
Sikkim gets covered because it's a separate state
Ah,
and part of the
connected.
northeast. So when all your the sampling happens for your NFHS or your census, then Sikkim gets covered as a separate state altogether, whereas we are subsumed within West Bengal.
Don't.
So that is why.
Why did you?
because assignment हो रहा है
Any other
Don't do anything. Just don't do anything. Okay? Okay. Don't do anything. I'll figure it out.
Yes.
Mentioned about political issues there.
Yeah.
So, the political issues, but now this under the leadership of current chief minister, there has been the cabinet is more for political uncertainty is there. So, I think for last 5 years, there might be some progress because those incidents like strikes or those things after 2019, it has drastically reduced or I mean, I could not see any news in the front page like the news, the types of news that are there before. So what is your view
Yeah.
on
So,
this?
sorry, what's your name?
Shobhan Sarkar.
Shobhan, so I'll park this question for later, okay? Because I think that is where everybody else who's from the region can also talk about what their experiences. The good thing about a session like this is you can actually pick up lived realities and not necessarily go by what the news is reporting, because I don't know how reliable news is these days. Any other questions?
You can continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just test this. So that is Mr. Roshan Rai, who was my mentor, who used to do those analysis with us, why alcoholism, why this, why that. And he said one thing that has stuck to my brain and heart, which is, he said, if you're not part of the solution, then you are. And that just stuck because I was 18 when I heard that. And that's why I'm here also. Right? And I've worked in the sector for about 20 plus years now, and I've had the privilege to work with esteemed organizations. Pankaj and I worked in an organization called Cultivage that has done phenomenal work with respect to environment conservation, environmental legislation, and specifically in the Northeast, also with respect to dams and development. Association for Democratic Reforms, you should definitely check their website because they will give you data on your candidates for Vidhan Sabha elections and MP elections. Candidates, their backgrounds that they have to voluntarily declare to the Election Commission of India. They will also give you details on what different parties have spent in elections, etc., which actually made me realize how elections are run in the country and how the country functions. And if you have one good elected representative, then what it can do for your entire district or state or country, right? Azim Premji Foundation is one of the biggest donors, and I was working in Andhra Pradesh in the Tribal Welfare Department with them, and Amnesty, all of you are aware of. So what happened was I was with Azim Premji Foundation, and I always wanted to come back to Darjeeling. But the thing was, I always thought that I would be in my retirement. But it so happened that during COVID, I think most of us realized that how much ever time we think we have, we don't have. We were losing loved ones. And then we realized कि जो चीज हम retirement के लिए सोच रहे हैं वो भी कर लेना चाहिए. And that is how I landed in Darjeeling in 2021. And we did a research at that time to understand the situation. Has that changed from where I was when I was in Darjeeling 20 years back? And unfortunately, what do you think? It hadn't, right? So the stats are in front of you. Substance abuse and alcoholism was still one of the biggest problems. In fact, it had reached the village that my mother is from. Right? Political instability is still there because panchayat elections were still not held even then. Young people were dropping out of school, out of college, and for extremely frivolous reasons. That the school is not able to keep the students, the colleges are not able to keep the students. We also realized that our young people are amazing because what they were doing, they are from extremely low income families in our tea gardens and villages. They were going to college in the morning, working at a shop in the evening, and then going back home. And we realized that 48% of them were actually supporting their families financially while being in college. So when young people, when actually my generation or older, say that young people are nalaik, lazy, this, that, I say no, we have data to prove otherwise. We also realize that migration is still very high because one member of every household, at least in the rural areas, is out. And they have very few role models. So we did this survey, ये पूछने के लिए कि who are your role models? There is a fantastic teacher who does online reading and goes to whatever online seminars that she can and then brings that knowledge to the students, but she is not the role model. Role model is somewhere sitting in Delhi or in Bombay, is a pop singer, is a YouTuber. So there aren't role models who will help you when you have a difficult situation in life or to actually egg you or nudge you towards a career. So you don't have, I'm not saying that there are no role models. There are role models. Some of the role models are sitting here in this part. But is the limelight on them so that our young people in the villages and tea gardens know about them? No. बिल्कुल गलत role models पे there is focus, right? And then limited career aspirations. So girls will go where? Where do you go, girls? They will want, they think that all of them will become teachers. Or now they want to go towards becoming air hostesses. Or maybe nursing. But very few clear the exam for nursing. Right? And then boys, where do they go? Most of our boys in the tea gardens and villages go to the army through the Agni scheme. Right? Not through the other exams like your CDS, for example, right? Where you actually get into an officer rank. You don't do that. Everybody is going in. Why army? Because government job and security hockey. Then medical insurance for the entire family. There will be so much money coming into the family. So the brunt of actually being the caregiver and the brunt of being the bread earner is also on an 18-year-old. That is where our young people are. And I'll tell you examples. No? So what are we doing? We have two programs. One is the Trailblazer.
You have time.
I have time.
Yeah, don't worry.
One is the Trailblazer Fellowship Program. And I've also been told that most of you are not familiar with the NGO sector, right? So if I'm using jargon like a fellowship का क्या मतलब है? So please feel free to just raise your hand and ask me, okay? So fellowship, you're familiar with the scholarship and internship? Are you familiar with the fellowship? Of course, you get research fellowships, right? These are a little different where you actually do some work on the ground to train yourself in skills that will be useful in your career as well as life. So that's a fellowship that we do. And then the other program is Empowered, which is the career readiness and a mentorship program. So that's the new program. Now our focus is on students who are between the ages of 16 to 21 years. First generation learners. First generation learners का मतलब क्या है? In their families, they are the first ones to go to college. And what does that mean? What does that mean? We'll come to that later, okay? When you are a first generation learner versus if you are a second generation learner, what does that mean in terms of how much you can dream? What does that mean in terms of how much support you get at home, outside? How much money you have? What role models you have in life is a very big question. And it's something that we've learned firsthand. Okay? And I can understand most of you, some of you at least are first generation learners, and you would know this by experience, right? And most of our students are from rural, low-income backgrounds and from tea gardens. In the photo, please remember this boy. His name is Dawa Sherpa. He is from the same village that my mother started his schooling, which was called it was called Sherpa Gaon. Okay. Remember Dawa Sherpa from Sherpa Gaon. And this is him. So in one of our presentations, he talked about what it is to be a rural kid. Right? So he said, I have to wake up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock because I have to do this. I have to get ghas for the livestock in my house. I have to help my mother at home. Then I have to go to college. How far is the college? 2 hours he has to walk one way to college. Right? In 2 hours back. And this is one of the longest walks, of course, but this is normal to walk so long to a place. And you can imagine what happens to our kids. Like these are still young adults, to our kids when they have to go to in our mountain areas when there is incessant rainfall, drenched from head to toe, and then having to walk to school. That is a very normal thing for us. Okay? What we do in the 20 days of fellowship program? Limited number of students. We started with 12. We are now at 27, a batch. 10 months fellowship. They have to pick up one social issue of their choice. We don't tell them, work on gender, work on this, work on that. No, they identify. They identify that this is a burning social issue I want to work on, and then we help them design and implement the project. And in the designing and implementing, what we also do is we also teach them scope कैसे limit रखना है. पूरे दुनिया जहान का problem you cannot solve in 10 months, right? How much can you do in 10 months? How can you limit the scope? Which stakeholders should you collaborate with? Which government department is linked to your issue? How to work with that government department? Which constitutional values or framework is applicable to your project? How can you work with the community? How can you have collaborations that will last? And then how can you do fundraising for your project? So they raise their own money for the projects also. And they are mentored by issue experts. And we also give them a stipend of 3,000 rupees. So far, good. What has happened so far? We have 40 youth leaders who have been trained across different colleges, and they have worked on various issues. Gender education, sex education, then they said mental health is a big issue, right? So they've picked up their own issue and we've learned from them. Like for example, we actually said that let's not do a project on sex education. Because controversial ho jayega. She was from a Jesuit institution. I personally thought that it would be difficult. But lo and behold, the principal supported it. And the session had so many students कि उनको line लगना पड़ा outside the classroom. Because so many students wanted to talk about that issue. So we are learning what is more important for young people. Right? We've also gathered a community of mentors to actually support our students for their career, for their education. And these are people from the region in different parts of the country giving time to the students to mentor them. Right? Meet Avinash. Please remember, you met Dava, right? Now you're meeting Avinash. Avinash is from a forest village called Rangpu, which is on the border of Kalimpong and Sikkim. And that place is notorious for drugs and alcohol. So what did Avinash do? His project was, because he's a footballer, he said, I'll use football as a medium to channelize energy of young people away from drugs and alcohol. And that's it. Teaching young people football. Avinash is also the son of migrants. His entire house got washed away during the Teesta floods. And they just rebuilt it again. This is the other project that was conducted in one of our rural colleges, Vision Degree College, where fellows across 2 batches are trying to convert this entire campus into a zero waste campus. Because what happens is, Vision is in one place, and then there's a beautiful river called Ranveet River that flows, and all the waste from that little town actually goes into the river. So the young people, what they said is, we will create a model of a zero waste college. And usse, the entire community will learn how to convert themselves into zero waste. So their idea was, we will set up a model by which the community will learn. Okay? So this was another project. This is our next program, which is Empower It. in which we help students in high schools and colleges access diverse career opportunities. And this is a fairly new project. We did a pilot very recently during the last winters, where we helped about 200 students apply for colleges in different parts of the country. But colleges choose करने का दो criteria था. One is the colleges should provide 100% need-based scholarship. The other is they should have a good placement rate. And that's how we opened up some of these colleges to our students. And it so happened that now we have 50 plus placements in different universities across the country, as well as other fellowships. Just say you must have heard of Teach for India, right? You must have heard of the organization called Bunj. Bunj also runs fellowships. You must have heard of SBI Youth for India fellowships. So we have students placed in different fellowships now. And this was done across the last 1 year only. Yes, so these are the different institutions that our students are currently in. And we've realized that what have we unlocked? We've unlocked 4.2 CR worth of scholarships to these students, because for a master's program, anything between 6 to 7 lakhs is what is required in a liberal arts university, right? And if you get a stipend for a fellowship, it's anything between 22,000 to 30,000 per month. And this is what our students are getting in the institutions that they are placed in. Remember Dara? From which village? Sherbaga. He is in Shivnadar University now, doing his master's in rural management. On your right, which is your right? Yeah, your right is Avinash, remember, who did football, right? He is in Azim Premji University, both with 100% scholarship. But these are among many others, like I'm sitting with some of them in Azim Premji University. This was last week actually. So this year we sent 26 of our students to Azim Premji University. Most of them on 100% scholarship, which means that their parents don't have to worry about sending their young children for education or spending money on higher education. The other thing to also acknowledge is the fact that these are the actually go to an institution like a Shivnadar or Azim Premji University. इससे पहले they hadn't heard of the university, they hadn't heard of the fellowship. So these are our trailblazers. And what we've noticed is we need to send some of them out and then the others follow. So what we want to do is also ensure that there's a movement of young people who are helping each other access careers and higher education opportunities that were so far not known to them. What are our learnings so far? One is we've realized that opportunity gaps are actually rooted in structural problems or structural poverty. Classic example is your first generation learner, right? So I'm using somebody as an example. Let's say her name is Pratibha. I'm not giving the real name for confidentiality purpose, but Pratibha is from a village, from a rural village. She's a first generation learner. She was in her third year when we met her. She's one of our first volunteers in Eastern Himalayan Foundation. Excellent student and very, very intent on bringing about some change in her community. But once she would leave and she had to travel some distance to college. So Subha she would sit in a gadi, the gadi would charge 150 rupees one way and then go back one way. So sometimes she would walk also. And she also used to sell Avon products and sell milk to support her family. Okay. In spite of that, her mother used to get angry if she used to bring assignments back home. Because she like, kitna padegi? Kitna to padha rahi? Like, why do you have to spend the time that you have to spend at home helping me? Why are you spending it on your assignments? That's the challenge of a first generation. If she wants to do her PhD, if she wants to do in zoology, she doesn't know how to convince her parents because in a community there's nobody who's done PhD. She knows that there are some career aspirations, but then she will not know how to convince anybody in the family or the community because they don't have any role models. And of course, the family is in such an economic situation that for them it makes sense if she goes and teaches in a private school, getting 3,000 per month today, than wait for a 30,000, 40,000 job in 3 years. Okay? That's the challenge of being a first generation learner. So we've seen a lot of self-doubt, a lot of burden that our young people carry at an extremely tender age. Yes? Like another fellow of us, her mother thought she was earning 3,000 as our stipend, right? She thought with the 3,000, her mother thought that she should support her daughter's children, her sister's children. So मासी के बच्चों को can they be supported by the 3,000 that she was earning, right? So the burden, and then she got into one of the most premier fellowships in the country, but her parents were in doubt that she gets on tomorrow, and she can be around, but why will she go for this? But thankfully she went, because you're also strengthening agency, which is a nice way of saying strengthening a little bit of rebellion in our young people. We've also realized, this is Ambika Shetty. She is with Teach for India, and she did one of the most interesting projects. So she comes from a tea garden called Pandam. So some of you who go to Darjeeling, when you go to Darjeeling, every hill station has a मैदान type of place, like Shimla में देखा होगा movies में, like मैदान type of place which is called the mall. So Darjeeling also has this, like a mall, and behind that are these tea gardens. Below that, let's say, are these tea gardens where Ambika is from. Now all the kachra from the mall actually goes down to the springs of Ambika's village. And the water that people used to drink directly from the spring is now contaminated. But हमारे यहाँ ये भी कहा जाता है that spring water is pure water. देवी देवताओं का वास होता है. So it's pure water, and to say that spring water is contaminated is also heresy. Okay, you can't say that. But Ambika is a microbiology student, and she could see the water is brown. And she told them this water is unfit for drinking, but nobody would agree. So her project was simply this, to test the water and to report that it is contaminated. But the amount of hard work and struggle that she had to do to convince her college to help her with the testing, go through her own struggle to identify this is the issue that she wanted to work on, and then when the report was finally ready, to actually take it to her community-based organization, and she said, correct, do something. So now the report has been presented to our territorial administration, and it's, what is the status? I don't know as of now. But Ambika's journey is something to focus on, because she, in the process, had to go through this immense journey from like self-doubt to finally realizing that this is what I want to do. And in the process, she was actually mentored by the lady in the sari is Iman. She is most people know her, a very well-known voice of issues of water in the Himalayan region, right? And Rinan mentored Ambika, and because of her health, Ambika could present her paper at an international conference in Gangtok, because of which she got a grant, a research grant from the Toby University, Australia, and she further did more research on water. And now she has got missions in Teach for India. And her parents were a little worried that Teach for India journey and master's in Kareli. But it so happens that now she's got a master's program while she's doing her fellowship. She'll get a Teach for India 2 years fellowship plus a master's degree from the University of Auckland. So what have we learned also is that young people drive change themselves. They just need some information, some tools, and some skills that will help develop. This is Dishan Doma. Dishan and her team of 5-6 other team members did a project on improving awareness on higher education opportunities to high schoolers. And because of them, there are some students who enrolled into UG courses in Eastern University, in BML Munjal University, right? 7 of them because of a team led by Dishan. And Dishan herself is one of our fellows, and she's studying in Eastern University. But what we've realized, and what I want to share with this example, is that we realize that we are not changing young people. We are already there. They have the talent, they have the jazba, the passion, they have the intent to serve the community, they have the intent to do well. They just need a small nudge which we develop. This I've learned from my team also. This is the team at Eastern Himalayan Foundation. All of them are from Darjeeling, Kalimpong, Siliguri, right? And all of them today, if you ask them, they will get a better opportunity to work elsewhere any day at much higher salaries that can offer. But they actually stayed with us because, like what Brihat says, I witnessed firsthand the impact leisure was creating with young people, and it deeply inspired me. That experience made me believe that by joining the team and contributing my skills, I could multiply the impact and contribute more meaningfully to the greater good of our community. So there are young people that we work with, but there are young people also willing to come and join us to help the region become better. And as you can imagine, I'm deeply, deeply grateful and very proud of that. So what more do we want to do? We've just started. Did I mention how many years old we are as an organization? Could you take a guess? Five years?
20 years.
20 years?
An organization. Their organization, not for work.
15 years? 4 years. Who said 4 years? We are 3.5 years old. We are 3.5 years old. This is how much we've done so far. And this is what we want to do. We want to make sure that young people realize that to change and transform their region is in their hands, that they can do it. They don't have to wait for some major political shift to happen for water to come to their homes, for hospitals to work better, for schools to function properly. They can be the change, they can lead the change. This is what we want people to realize. We want them to drive the change. As our fellows, as leaders, as community group members, if they come back and want to start organizations of their own, we want to be there to help them drive that change, for them to model that change as individuals in their careers. सबसे बड़ी इंस्टीट्यूशन में जाके पढ़ो, IIT में आके पढ़ो, you know? Can you model that change in your own life? And then can you also change your community? Can you change your college? We want them to be there. And then we also want a local community that supports them. Can we have more mentors come to give time, maybe to give money, to support their scholarships? To actually say that this is, so I'll give you an example. A senior of mine in college who works in the land revenue department, I asked him, would you like to spend some time talking about what it takes to get into the government sector? He was like, sure, Mashqura, I'm very willing to do that. But, and this is what blew my mind, he said, but I'd also like to talk about my mental health journey. I went through depression a year back and I've come out of it and I've realized it's a very normal thing and it's something that one can get over, but people will understand only if somebody who's gone through will talk about it. So I'm happy to talk about that also. You know, and that was so inspiring. You're also saying how you can live a better, more meaningful life. Yes. And questions for you. Up for discussion? Do you think tech can democratize career guidance? Not just career guidance. Let's talk about any other help and support that young people need. Can we democratize access to mental health? Can we democratize access to role models, mentors? And how can institutions like yours be more accessible to young people from the margins of India, where स्कूल और कॉलेज में उतनी बढ़िया पढ़ाई नहीं होती, तो मेरिट में हम पास नहीं होंगे. So, can these spaces be a little more accessible? Is the question. I think I should leave it to that. Yes.
I leave your last slide for the QR and the
Yeah.
or if you want to keep this one. Your choice.
I think you have the questions. We can leave it open. I've never talked for so long. My pictures are usually 5 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mashqura. Thank you so much. Two things. One is for taking us to a part of India that we know exists, we hear about, but the granularity of that place and which is so far away from where we are sitting. So thanks for that, and also thanks for what you do. I mean, it might be only 3.5 years, but there is so much more. And so what I was also thinking as she was speaking is that small and slow also matters. You know, you're talking of numbers that are like 30, 40, and others are only talking scale and big and bigger. Of course, it has to grow big, but every person counts and every number is important. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for agreeing to come and speak. So we're deeply grateful and for giving us this very beautiful, very thoughtful, very inspiring insight into your life, your work, and of course, the region that you come from. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll open this up for discussion. And as always, we'll have our students speak and ask first. I'm sure you have many, many questions, but in some way she's really directly addressed a set of questions that are perhaps much more closer to you than to us oldies with gray hair, quite directly. So yeah, anybody wants to, yeah, the mic, is the mic working? Yeah, okay, all right. Great. Do introduce yourself so Mashqura knows who you are and then your question.
Good evening, ma'am. So I am Shreyas Kusur, currently second year MTech student in Sitara. I have numerous questions, but I'll put it after the session as well.
So two to begin with.
Yes, two to begin with. The first one, if you could just maybe explain a little bit more about the Gorkhaland territorial administration. So, because in the 5 minutes which I could do and see online, I realized it's not just Darjeeling, but it's also spreading out to other regions. So, I still can't get how is the political instability being pinpointed only to Darjeeling, but how is it originating and what's the main cause also? Like, because it's not just related to that one place. My second question is this initiative you have taken 4 years ago to get this initiative started and to bring in the volunteers. So, what was your process to get the people and bring in volunteers for this particular organization? Thank you.
Do you want to take a couple of questions together?
Yeah, I was thinking we'll take 3 people at
Oh,
time.
so let's Shreyas, yeah.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Sashwat Kalsav. I'm a second year PhD student. So I have two questions. First is, you told about Avinash, who is a footballer. So is he going to pursue it further? Does he have any scope in Darjeeling? We have seen a number of footballers coming from Northeast regions, not just footballers, but in other sports also. So is there any scope in Darjeeling as such? Second question is, what about the influence of social media? I studied at IIT Guwahati for 2 years. I noticed a good participation in a good proportion are becoming social media influencers. So are we seeing a similar trend from Darjeeling as well? Thank you.
So when you can come here and speak on this mic. And then we can have Mashqura answer and then the next round of questions.
Hello, ma'am. Very nice presentation. So I am Shobhan Sarkar, first year, and I want to ask, as you are closely working with the hilly area people and you have this foundation. So, do you think that forming one separate state, namely Gorkhaland or any other, so that might be one solution to mitigate the opportunity gap in terms of structure, poverty that exists there? You also showed in your slide. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. शुरुआत में इतने incisive questions I'm like और कितना काटे हैं. But so I would actually request my friend and one of the professors, Professor John Gole, to also help me with this answer on
Even the mic?
GPA.
I'm sorry. Oh, you can come here. No. Okay. Bring the mic to you.
I'm there. I keep in.
So, Shreyas, your question was on political instability in the. So I'll just quote some facts, right? So when in 1986 was the first agitation for separate state. It was the first violent agitation for separate state. The demand for a separate state predates independence, like I mentioned. Because it was so violent, and I don't want to trivialize this because today at least, I don't trivialize it. But the remnants of that violence, we still feel it in our culture, the way we speak till today. For example, there are spaces in Darjeeling where decapitated heads were kept. And we've had people living next to each other who are burning down each other's homes. Government offices were burned down. So we've seen like a lot of violence that played out recently till 2017, 2018. This also answers a little bit of Shobham's question. And what is political stability? To understand what is political instability, you have to understand what political stability is. Political stability for me is when I know that the services that are supposed to be provided by the government will be provided to me. Which means that when I go to a block office, I should get whatever I go to a block office for. If I go to a block hospital, I should get treated. It should have an X-ray in place. The Gram Panchayat should be working, right? Political instability, and I should be able to go to my work every day and get my wage and my salary, whichever I got, right? There should be normality, there should be predictability in day to day, and there should be rule of law, right? I'm assuming everybody's familiar with rule of law. So rule of law applies. But what happens when there is political instability is there is some amount of unpredictability in daily affairs. Which means that all of a sudden there will be a strike. All of a sudden that the municipality that was elected will actually get the councillors will be bought over, right? Or that you didn't have Gram Panchayat elections for so long. So to actually I'm answering Vishnu's question that political instability in that sense, we've had it for so long that now to say for the last 5 years abhi acha hai is too short for me. In my lifetime of 45 years, I've felt it for 40 years. Last 5 years don't come in. And that's my personal opinion. The GTA is the second version of the local authority. The first was the Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council, which was given or which came through a constitutional mandate after the 86 agitation. And then there was another agitation in 2017, after which the GTA was formulated. Now the GTA is supposed to, although the GTA agreement says that we should have Zilla Parishad also, but it takes over all the functions of the Zilla Parishad in my limited information. But Pravish, I just said like that.
So, primarily, when
If I can briefly request you to also introduce yourself, because all of
Hi.
us may not know you yet.
my name is Jan, and I teach at the Humanities and Social Sciences Department here at IIT. The fallout of the agitation during the 80s was the formulation of the DGHC. And what was done is that certain state subjects were transferred over to this council. None of them important except for education. So under the DGHC and now under the GTA, the primary education, not the secondary or higher secondary, but the primary education of all the region that falls under the GTA is looked after by the GTA. In actual terms, that is its function and the extent of its power.
Also to add to it, there was also a movement to see if we can come under the 6th schedule. So most of your northeastern states actually come under the 6th schedule, but that did not work out for various reasons. Otherwise, that would have been a good way to ensure devolution of power according to the constitutional provisions as they are as well.
Shashwat's question.
So, So Shreya had another question, how did you get volunteers? So first of all, the NGO sector, the development sector is like any other sector now, which means that we actually pay, which means I get a salary, everybody else in the team gets salary. So we are not volunteers anymore. Uh, Earlier, we did work with volunteers, and that was easy to come by because helping and serving is a part of culture. So if I say I want to do something to help young people, today a lot of people will come like this. In fact, we have community-based organizations called Samajas in every ward, every village that comes together for different social functions. If somebody's died, if there's a disaster, if there's a landslide, we have the entire community come together. That's part and parcel of the culture. So getting volunteers is not that difficult. To get team members initially was very difficult because we were not known. I interviewed 75 people before we zeroed down on our first team member. But after for us a visibility budget, people got to know about our work. Now we have more team members willing to come and join us. So that answers both your questions, Shreyas. Kashpat said that Avinash, he's not pursuing football as of now. He's doing masters in Chatsworth. So he's not pursuing football, but he's studying masters in development as in Kent University. As an organization, we've not got into sports so much, but that is something that we are thinking of whether we should do that because football is a big passion. If you ever come to Darjeeling, if you come during the football season, you will see a flag on every household, right? And it is a great way to develop life skills in young people, and it's a proven method. So that is something that we are wondering whether we should try and whether we should look at career opportunities, but we've not done that as yet. You also asked influence of social media, whether that trend is yes. There are influencers in Darjeeling who earn thousands of rupees every month because they are influencers, they are advertising for brands. And at one time, we also did a very dipstick survey to understand whether we can use some of these or collaborate with these influencers for some of our campaigns. But then we realized the values may not be aligned, so far. So whether some of our fellows can become influencers, that's our hope. Shubham's question is answered. Can take now.
Yes. Anyone? Yeah, there is one question here.
Would anybody else like from Darjeeling Kalundborg also like to contribute second? Question.
You want to ask it?
Uh,
You're there in the front.
Hi.
First, yeah, yes. I'm Omkar. I'm a fifth year PhD student at Sitara. So my question is, are you the only one working in this area in Darjeeling, or there are more NGOs present like this? And also because in your title you have this Eastern Himalayan. So do you have any interaction with the other NGOs working in overall Himalayan region? What is your experience? Are these problems replicating other Himalayan regions as well? What is your overall comment on that? That's it. Thanks.
Anything else? You can take one more question. Yeah, right here at the back, and we can start in the middle. Yeah.
Hello. So my question is that
Please introduce yourself.
okay, so I am Vikram. I completed my PhD here. Right now I'm working as a research associate here.
Which department? Sorry, I'm curious.
I'm in climate studies. So instead of a separate state like Gorkhaland, why is like merging Darjeeling, Kalimpong and other hilly regions into Sikkim not an option? Because of geographical and to some extent cultural similarities.
There are lots of larger political questions. We getting carried away with that, but that's fine. Yeah. And there's a question at the back, Gayatri? Yeah.
Hello. So I'm Gayatri. I'm first an MBA student. So I had two questions. The first one is why is it the way it is? Like you've mentioned multiple reasons, like there's political instability, stability, and then there's substance abuse, migration. I mean, I understand that the terrain has a very great role to play, but then historically, why is it the way it is? And there's so many wars happening there. So I've also heard that like there's a difference between the low-lying area people and the high-lying area people have like fight against them or something. So I didn't really completely understand when I was reading about it. So I would like to know what are the reasons for why it is the way it is, and of course, how is it to be a woman entrepreneur?
Maybe just one.
The most difficult questions coming now. Matrika is after that.
Hi everyone, my name is
Answer that
Anthony.
question yourself.
No, Mashqura, I wanted to understand, I of course get where you come from and everything, but when you worked with all of these students and all the other stakeholders that were present, for instance, there might have been officers that you had to work with, raising the funds, working with communities there. How has that changed over the course of the last 3.5 years? And how difficult or easy was it to convince the local community to be a part of this? Like you already know that I would love to do something like this in Sikkim in the future as well, because we have a shared set of challenges in both our areas as well. But I'd like to understand how was it for you working with multiple stakeholders, apart from the students, of course.
We take this round, and then there's a couple of questions I think on Zoom. One question. So maybe after this round of responses, then we can take the Zoom question and maybe one or two more. Then we have time. Yeah. Go ahead, Bhaskar.
Interesting question. So there are some within my pay scale, there's some beyond my OPAS and pay scale, which I'll take at the end. And for some of these political questions, this is open to all the other students and faculty from the region also. Especially the question on why it is the way it is. Right? I have a slightly philosophical overarching answer to that. Why it is the way it is. It's just different people who have envisioned development in our country have certain set of values that they have followed. Right? So where somebody like Nehru came with the big dams and said a certain form of development should be followed, there was somebody like Gandhi who said that let each village come up. Right? And they had their own experiences to back that. And if you see, whenever a majority voice is, whether it's a certain class or it's a certain caste or it is a certain geography that is predominant, then somebody's voice is actually getting suppressed. And that leads to conflict. And that has happened in the Northeast. Northeast, every state, if you look at every violence, every ethnic conflict, every insurgency is actually to assert that I am here. Why don't you see me? It sounds simplistic, but there's enough and more data to actually explore this further. Other NGOs in Darjeeling and stakeholders, Matrika specialty together. There are a lot of other organizations across the Northeast and the Himalayas working on issues like that, but very few who are working with the youth as their core constituents. Like in Darjeeling specifically, we have organizations which are working with children. There are orphanages, there are childcare institutes, people working against child labor, against trafficking on women. But in the region, Darjeeling and Kalimpong, we are the only organization working with a very specific focus on the youth. Larger Northeast, there are other organizations, and we are in the process of collaborating with them. In the local stakeholders, it's actually easy. I'm not sure whether it will be easy in Sikkim because situation is slightly different. But in Darjeeling and Kalimpong, we've had a lot of support anywhere from local authorities to local community to the colleges. Colleges, we've had to prove our worth, and rightfully so. Why would anybody, trust somebody who's been outside for so long? But then in the last 2 years, from like 4 to 6 colleges, we're working with 14 colleges, and colleges and high schools are calling us saying that please work with us because they find what we do with students relevant. So that support is there. And of course, professionals like yourself and everybody else coming in saying, hey, we can talk about this issue. Maybe the young people need to know about climate. Maybe they don't need to know about technology. If anybody of you would like to come and talk to our young people, we'd be happy to host those spaces also. I will actually skip this question on merging hilly regions with Sikkim because those I don't think that as an organization we want to be engaged in any form of dialogue which actually talks about political solutions at such a high level, because a lot of those are motivated by interests other than the interests of the people. As an organization, we would like to stick our foot on the ground and say that we represent the needs of the young people, and that is what we will do. Anything that actually helps young people lead better lives, explore better careers, help them bring about change in their own communities, that is what we will do. What political thing happens at 30,000 feet is something that we would like to stay away from as then the question that I'm most interested to answer is what is my experience as a woman entrepreneur? It has been extremely difficult. It's been extremely difficult. If any of you are thinking of starting your business, your organization, anything new venture, it is going to be extremely difficult. And it is going to be difficult in ways that you can't imagine yourself. Like Pranay and I were talking, and I was telling him that I was prepared to bring some change, but I was not prepared to do accounts. I was not prepared to look through files and files of like accounts, right? I was not prepared to manage and direct people. I thought a bunch of young people will come and we'll do something together. But then my biggest feedback, and I think my team is listening, my biggest feedback from my team to me is direction to clearly they know. Like communicate clearly to us what you want to get done. Because I'm like, so much it's not my skill to delegate. But I have had to learn so many things in the process of doing what I do, right? The other thing is, like I mentioned, my parents are government servants. So what did they crave for in life? Security. What did I do make them extremely insecure? My husband, my partner is still in Bangalore. I left all of that and moved to Darjeeling. And my mother's first question was like, when have you come back? And then I went straight to the village that she had actually got out from. So she was like, Jahan se nikala muni pe ghus gaye. So that is another thing. And like if I belonged to a business family, they would have probably said, bahut badhiya hua, you become your own boss. But Mayuro, my mother said, who are you going to report to now? You will have to take all the decisions yourself. So there's a constant narrative of fear if you are an entrepreneur and if you're a first generation entrepreneur. So you always have to be wary about, are you being risk averse? Right? Are you taking the right risks? And am I thinking too much? Thankfully, I have an excellent board also that pushes me. Like initially I couldn't start. So Mr. Anshu Gupta, who's the founder of Munj, he told me, Mashqura, kahin se shuru karna padega, kar lo. Jo first thing dimag mein hai, wo kar lo. Because I'm thinking too much, right? Too much in my head. Because I don't have role models myself. Then of course, as women, we are laden with self-doubt. And raise your hand if your mother does not sit in your head. Even if she's not there physically, right? You hear her in your brain. ये क्यों करना है? ये करके क्या होगा? उसको क्यों ऐसे बोला? उसको अच्छे से बात कर सकते हैं? Like, this constant self-doubt and self-criticism is there. And one of my biggest struggles has been internal. How do I have more faith in myself? How do I take more risks? How do I make a decision and not regret it? And even if I regret it, how do I not beat myself about it? So, in short, very tough, but it's one of the best things that I've done for myself spiritually. Because what doesn't kill you actually takes you closer to God. So, yeah. You guys want to add anything?
Yeah, we have one question on Zoom and then we'll take Joan.
One question on Zoom. That is, he is Sriram B, and he's a board member of Eastern Himalayan Foundation. And he just conveying that I would like the audience to know how they can help. So he likes you to answer that how we can help in this scenario.
Oh, he's asking a question on yours behalf. I have such smart board members actually. So that I need for the last. And
We have one last question. You do you have a question? No, I know he has. You also have. Saurav, you're also from the hills, Western Himalayas. Yeah. You should ask a Western Himalaya question. But yeah, Juan is from far away.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah, myself John Nandi, and I'm a PhD student here. The question that I have is, first of all, you talked about falling in love and loneliness issue that you said. Why is there a detachment from the family itself? I understand because of the issue. Why is there a detachment within family? Point number one. Second thing is the issue with respect to the sixth schedule that we talked about. The sixth schedule issue is also an issue which is faced by people in Ladakh. Sonam Wangchu had raised this issue. So could that be an advantage or not? I mean, very recently in Northeast, Dibang Valley, Deng Patkai, they have been prone to rampant development and in those regions. So are you succumbed to those kind of challenges? Are you facing those kind of challenges? And the last part is the question that you asked us, I guess, to everyone, is career guidance from IIT. So I already am aware about courses that are being run by NPTEL, but that's not career guidance, those are courses. So is these kind of platform, can something be hosted or something? It would be a very generic question, especially when people in Northeast are already active on social media. I think that would be the best place. We don't need any technical innovation in that. It's just that that level of accessibility is probably what is required. I mean, that started from 1970s when EduSat was started by ISRO. So this level of online thing is probably what IITs or any big institute could provide for these people. And I guess these platforms can be explored further there.
Maybe that can be the last two set of responses. Question that came from online and Juan's question. Yeah. It will be good with time. Anybody else? One more person, one question, quick question. All right. Yeah, Mashqura, all yours.
Detachment family is a very important question. I missed that part. Thank you, John, for pointing it out. Now, because there is early marriage, and when I say early, I don't necessarily mean age, right? Because I could be 45 but not yet ready to marry. That's a different thing altogether. But ideally, you should marry when you're ready, right? When you're ready to handle responsibility and when you're ready to handle yourself also. And obviously, if you are below legal age or around that age, and if you've not had exposure, if your family has history of some generational trauma, there's alcoholism, there's drug abuse, it is most likely you're not able to handle yourself also. You're still struggling, right? Mental health issues is on the rise. Sikkim, if I'm not mistaken, topped Kerala in the list of the highest rates, Oxford side. We are contiguous to Sikkim. If there was data only for these two districts, we'd probably be very close to Sikkim. At least anecdotally, I can say that our suicide rates are increasing. So, what I'm saying is we don't have the tools to deal with mental health. We don't have the tools to deal with life. Like, how do we cope with heartbreak? Is that taught in college? No. But is that a real life issue? Yes. Right? So, what happens when people get married early because they're looking for escape or because they think an infatuation is love? Then you're getting married, and this is something that I've seen. You're getting married at 18, 19. You're having children when you're 20, 22. And then by 24, you realize that I don't want to stay with this person. or you found somebody else, and then you've left the child with the grandmother or mama, chachi. So a lot of our young people actually come from broken families, and they don't have both the caretakers, or they are staying with their with people in their family or a neighbor. So we see like a certain vicious cycle actually being operated, which is why we also feel that supporting life in general, apart from career, apart from your profession, higher education, supporting young people in how to take these day-to-day decisions is also very, very important. Okay. Sixth schedule, again, I think Kavish is like.
He had to leave, he had a class.
So sixth schedule, I'm asking the rest of the people had control. But the sixth schedule is something that we had tried. But sixth schedule also has a condition that a certain percentage of your population has to be tribal, which at that point we did not fulfill, right? The other question in terms of like, are we facing the same challenges as the Ganga Valley? Yes. But as our youth as mobilized as the youth in demand? No. Like anything like that.
Yeah, no, they say no. Should we force the mic in your hands?
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay, fantastic. All right. But yeah, briefly, some quick comments.
Yes, briefly.
Whatever you like to say. Yeah.
Yes, my name is Jordan Kinson sitting down too. I am a PhD scholar in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, almost at the verge of submission. And I think I'd like to answer a few questions, or I think in what we PhD people do, not to give answers, but problematize the existing problems better in terms of, why it is how it is, in terms of the sixth schedule, and also in terms of, things appearing passive, given that there's no sporadic instances of violence, and does that necessarily mean that everything's okay, right? So I think these questions are, can I stand? I prefer to stand. All right. Also, thank you for this one to address. And I am from the region. I'm from Kalimpong, all right? And I belong to the Lepcha, right? I think the problem, and also with the larger question of, can we just merge Sikkim with Darjeeling? I think these are very sensitive questions, all right? And I think part of the reason as to why these, administrative, political-centric solutions come to the table immediately is also because we are not very aware of the history of our region, okay? Because the history of the country, unfortunately, is not representative of all of the regions. Now, just an example, if you talk about merging Sikkim and Darjeeling, you have to talk about the historical antecedents, right? Sikkim was a separate kingdom in the 1630s by the Chogyar. The British came in 1835, they took Darjeeling, and in the 1860s, after the Anglo-Gorkha War, they incorporated Kalimpong within the British controlled Darjeeling. 1947, West Bengal happened. Sikkim just came to India in 1975. You cannot, impose an administrative straitjacket, just for the purview of administration, for the purview of political convenience. So I think with respect to these sensitive things, I think we must be, I think, a little poignant in what is actually happening, not just in terms of how the state is virtually absent. I'd like to go back to what she said earlier as why Samaj is so popular over there, right? Why community-based mobilizations and community-centric solutions are there back home, right? And not as opposed to Western individualism that all of us are striving to be, right? Is because of the virtual absence of the state itself, right? That is the whole idea of periphery, right? It's the virtual absence of the state itself. And when I talk about state, I want to very, very, distinguish by saying that Raj or Sarkar mein farak hai, right? I'm talking about the state, not the government. Basic infrastructure is absent, right? So then the community mobilizes. Look at my Sherpa brother over there who has to walk 2 hours to school, right? And there's a road, but what is the condition of that road? How do you classify a road in terms of state, articulation? So I think all of these things have to be, sensitized to, understand what is actually happening. And I think, this ground-up approach that this initiative is trying to do, this Eastern Himalayan is a gifting example of trying to, break that, status quo of inequality, right? That power hierarchy that actually exists. And coming to your question, what's your name, brother? Yeah, so much. Yeah, just one, because this stuck with me, okay? I mean, nothing's happening right there because of this administration. All is good, is it right? I want to present another case. Just because there was no suicide today in IIT does this mean that there's the suicidogenic current and the depression amongst all the citizens? Are they absent? I don't think so, right? You don't need an active demonstration of visceral disappointment and violence to actually, be the litmus to say that things are all right, right?
Any quick last comments that you may want to, this thing we'll wrap up after that. Yeah, please.
I just want to say thank you. I don't know if I've done, I think I've done a decent job.
Can we ask the audience?
Yes.
Has she done a decent job?
No.
And she doesn't bite. Yeah, but please go ahead.
But thank you so much. You've been a wonderful audience. I know it's very long, but you said too, and you asked many questions. I'll be around here if anybody would like to ask further questions, answer Sriram's question about how you would like to help us. But thank you so much for this time and the opportunity, Pankaj, and the faculty at Stana, because these are very rare spaces that the Northeast actually gets to showcase what the region is and to be visible to the makers India. So thank you.
Her email ID is there, and and no, it's our privilege and our honor, and like I said, we are deeply grateful. And we have a small token of appreciation. I'm going to ask our 2 first-year Northeast representatives. Is Siliguri part of Darjeeling or is Darjeeling part of Siliguri? So, Mr. Sarkar and Yushan, who's from Manipur, please come. This is a hand-woven natural dyed scarf from Dastakar Andhra that works in Hyderabad. So, you can please, a little token of appreciation to Mashqura. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Like she said, she's around. Her email is there. You can also get in touch with her. Thank you very much. Like always, we have our next seminar next Tuesday, same time. We should have another very interesting presentation. This is by somebody called Rosalind Pereira, who lives just outside of Bombay. She heads a program called Project AMHI, which works on urban waste and waste in urban and peri-urban areas just outside of Bombay. She's done some amazing work, and she'll be here next Tuesday at 5:30. So, of course, Sitara students, unfortunately or fortunately, you get a chance to listen to such fantastic speakers. Please spread the word. Please let other people on campus know about some of these fantastic speakers that we have. And again, Mashqura, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming.